Welcome to upgrading a Geeetech a10 to a Bigtreetech SKR Mini E3 V2. Big reasons for this upgrade: well, the printer is still bone stock, and well, this board's going to make it a whole lot quieter than what it currently is. Take a quick little gander at this sucker. Nice little mainboard, a bit smaller than the factory one that comes in the Geeetech, but for sure will be a big upgrade to it. Looks to be a very nice main board, and to go with this Bigtreetech E3 Mini, I got the TFT 3.5 dual mode touchscreen. And well, there's another little rubber duck. Now we got a pair. So the first thing we pull out of the box is the cable, 3 cables and the knob. We're only going to need 2 cables for this operation. We're going to need one gray one, and the black one. The black one's for the TFT. Once we get this screen out, we can get a quick glance at it. It's definitely going to be a nice upgrade to what the factory put on there, and a lot easier to use, I'm hoping. Definitely nice. So now we know what we're going to be working with. We can get on to extracting the mainboard. The lid of my mainboard, I've only got 2 screws left in it because I've been in it a few times cleaning the fan and whatnot. So once I got the 2 screws out, you might have 4. I only had 2, and once those are out, we can get the fan out of the way, unplugged and out of the way, and now we can just start removing the plugs. I got the power plug unplugged first, and then I went a little caveman on the first plug for the extruders. That one isn't so critical. It's this one here that you have to be delicate with. This is the one that has all the main connections, and that's the heated bed with temperature sensor. I will have a photo later on in the video with all the pinouts for the main harness. One thing I struggled with later on was the hot glue they used to secure the stepper driver motor leads. The hot glue that's around the end stops here are not too bad. You just pick a little bit at the top of it, and that will just allow you to pop the connectors out. One thing about converting over to, or I should say swapping over to the Bigtreetech, is our end switches use 3 plugs, and we only will need 2. There will be a photo later on with all the pinouts for everything to make it easy to convert, or I should say swap over to any mainboard after this. It doesn't matter if it's a Bigtreetech or any other brand. This will apply to basically any mainboard you want to convert to after getting rid of the proprietary connectors that Geeetech put on the printer. Now getting on to the stepper drivers, motors I should say, I fought with those a little bit, so I moved over to the screen and went a little caveman on it. Do not do that. That is not wise. Using something like a little flathead to wiggle it up a little bit is smart. Don't pry on it. Just lightly jiggle, as I like to put it. But getting back to the stepper motors, and those were glued in pretty good. I eventually had to stop because I was spent like probably a good half an hour, 45 minutes trying to get the one off, and I literally pulled the housing right off the mainboard. This is for why, and once I got it off, you can see all the hot glue in there. So be careful when you're doing this, guys. So now we have the mainboard extracted out. We can now start converting over to our new mainboard. First off, here we're going to be getting our power, and that should be obvious: positive and negative. Red is positive, black is negative. We're going to strip those back, but don't strip them too much. It's best to only have like 5 millimeters of wire showing, So then you can get the wire shoved in with a pinch of the actual sheathing with the wire, so then you don't get any hairs sticking out and could cause a potential short that way. Then again, these put in. The negative is on the outside for this board and positive is closest to the fuse. And this is a 24-volt printer, don't forget, guys. Now once the mains are plugged in, we can start looking at what we want to pick off. And next is going to be the stepper motors, plugging them into their housings. And since I labeled mine off, I was able to easily follow the tags back, because the Y and X are bundled with their end switches, so they are really easy, so you only have to label one side. And Z is not bundled with its end switch, it's separate, so it will be really easy to plug in. Now with that, we move to the probably the most difficult, is getting the main gantry plug converted over. Pause the video here, write this down so then you have it for your notes. Hey guys, it's just your friend Loose Nut cutting in here real quick. After a few days I found out that Z end stop and Z probe are on two different pins, so I had to revert my pinning for the blue and black and plug it directly into the Z end stop, and then I got power from the SWD. Since the logic on the Bigtreetech boards are 3 volt, that's where you're able to get 3 volts. So take a look at that if you're running an NPN. So now back to our scheduled programming. One thing I did wrong when I put my heated bed terminals in, I put them in backwards. You can see here the one thing I did was I repinned the 3D touch into one connector, so then when I use the Z probe on my printer, it will function like factory. That's the reason I didn't use the Z switch end probe. So now I'm starting to plug everything in. This is the temperature sensor for the nozzle that I've just plugged in. Next will be the negative pin for the part cooling fan. And now I'll get, this is where I messed up. I put these in backwards. It took me a few days to figure out that I put these in backwards because the printer was always shutting off every time I tried to command for the nozzle. Switched them, now it's good. Now the next ones I'm doing is the 24 volt for the gantry. Green is going to be the negative, blue is going to be the positive for the gantry, and that will allow the whole gantry to act like it was factory off the hop. Now we're plugging in the stepper motor, and that's the extruder, and the color code or color combination for that is blue, red, green, black. Next thing we're going to be plugging in is the temperature probe for the bed. Green is going to be your ground, the purple is going to be your positive, and next thing we're going to be doing is giving the bed power. One thing I messed up here was trying to twist the two leads together and then put them into the terminal block. Don't do that. Put them in together at the same time, not twisted together. It makes it way easier, so and you won't get any strands sticking out of the terminal block like I was when I was trying to twist them together and put them in. Makes it a lot easier. Once you do that, figure that out, you can get them in real quick and easy. If you, as you watch me do the red ones here, it's going to be painless. And now with those being not so much a pain, we basically have her all wired up and ready to kick on. It's essentially rewired like how the factory sent it to us. Only thing we need to do is plug in the screen, and I did that a little wrong when I plugged in the gray cable. I plugged it into the first expansion port on the screen. It needs to be plugged into the third. And with the TFT, the pin that is closest to the fuse is the reset pin. and that's where the individual goes to. Now with clicking the power on, we can see if everything's working. So far so good. Now let's see if the screen pairs. Well, that beep is great to hear. Now we can test out what the factory firmware is like a little bit. Well, we got movement. That's a good sign. So thanks for watching, guys. This is your friend Loose Nut Printing. Thanks for watching again, guys. Have a great one.